time for the ride home in ENC.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
This is your 5 o'clock drive with Patrick Johnson.
Holy mackerel!
More news, more interviews, more ECU stories than you can shake a stick at. Hey, stop shaking that stick. This is the Patrick Johnson Show.
Pirates win! Pirates win!
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, hello again, everybody, and welcome. Fresh edition of the Patrick Johnson Show here today. Great to have you along. P-Man and Philip the Ref Pilkington are here with you today. Good to see you, Pilk. How are you?
I'm good. PJ, how are you? Nice, kind of cool day today. We're not up in the mid-90s. I got in my car, and I didn't feel like I was medium rare already.
And good to get over a little rain, although it was a little bit of a nuisance last night. But it's out of here, and they'll have a gorgeous night for the City Championship in Greenville, which gets underway, I believe, at the top of the hour. Pardon me. So a little too much sudsy beverage there. Not the type you're thinking, but a carbonated beverage. All right, we're going to have Joe Giglio on the program today from the OG Podcast. I understand he may have been somewhere else today a little earlier, but as I like to say, you know, the JV usually plays before the varsity.
There you go. It does. That it does.
You know, so that's fine. We don't have it, any equal or exclusive. But as I like to say, usually the JV begins and the varsity plays a little later. And
does that also apply to Maniscalco going on like satellite radio earlier in the week?
Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, that's more like you played a preseason, pre-conference game, and then you played your big conference game to wrap it all up.
There you go.
You know, like it was like the Duke Carolina game. The last one of the year kind of thing. All right, we want to save as much time as possible for Joe Giglio because we have a lot of I also want to get Giglio's take on Maniscalco's rant from yesterday. I've got a piece of it I'll play. And we've, of course, put some of that on social media, so in case you missed it. Because really yesterday was a fun interview with Mike. It wasn't we were going to break down every goal of the decisive game. It was really just to get his reaction to what the last week has been like. And here's what I would say too. And I'm all for having Mike on. Now, I don't think we're going to go Adam Gold and talk all hockey all the time. But I mean, I like having Mike on, and he gets it. He gets where we are on this. He gets our market. So we'll talk it, but he also knows we're not Hockey Night in Canada.
I'm just glad he was ripping on Ben instead of me. It's a good, nice little change up.
But by the way, is Ben okay? Did he wake up this morning and make his next train, or is he all right?
As far as I know, he left my house fine last night after the NBA draft about midnight.
Okay. Boys watch the NBA draft. We'll get into that. We'll get into some of the other top stories. It was great to have Ben yesterday also. Good week of shows here. If you missed any of them, check out the IBX Media app. A lot of reaction still to the John Gilbert interview. But let's do the top 5 at 5 here on this Wednesday, midweek edition.
This may very well be our last mission. Let's make it count.
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
It's impossible.
Now some stories you may have heard.
You ready?
Or catch it for the first time. This is your 5 at 5.
Number one. Oh, I'm a little out of practice hitting the button there, Pilk. I'm sorry.
No worries. More than 50 collegiate athletes are now suing the NCAA for the new 5-year based eligibility ruling. As you guys know, it was officially passed today, but approved yesterday that the current athletes will get 5 years to play 5 years, and that 5 years will either begin when they enroll in university or the first academic semester that begins after their 19th birthday. This does not apply to the players who just recently wrapped up their collegiate careers and only got 5 years to play 4 years of eligibility.
So it is a combo of men's and women's basketball. I mean, also how were we doubting at any point that there was going to be litigation? I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on this. And there's litigation. The lawsuit was filed in Hamilton County, Ohio, against the NCAA. So I don't know the I don't know, what would you say, the significance of that?
Yeah.
But you got all of these players graduated from high school in 2022, and they have played 4 seasons in the NCAA between 2022 and this past year. So under the new rules, they would theoretically have another year of eligibility. Again, this is just basketball. This doesn't count football, baseball, softball at all. But the NCAA opted to exclude them from the new policy, saying it only applies to athletes who have completed 4 years between 2022 and now. The lawsuit is requesting a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction requiring the NCAA to allow these players eligibility this fall. Let's see here. The lawsuit is the first of several expected to be filed by attorneys Darren Heitner and Ryan Downton, both of whom have represented players across the country against the NCAA. Downton was the scumbag who represented another scumbag, and that is Vanderbilt's Diego Pavia, who blew the eligibility case open in 2024. The attorneys have amassed more than 50 basketball players, as Pilk said, to sue the NCAA, and will file additional cases in the multiple weeks. No comment from the NCAA. By the way, attorneys just suck. I say that, too, from some personal experience, and no offense to anybody who maybe is an attorney or has a family member that's an attorney or significant other than it, but attorneys generally suck. Unnecessary evil, I suppose. With all that said, I can't imagine, Pilk. I cannot imagine that there's, because where does it stop if they let these 50 or whatever in? Where does it? And here's the other thing. It's kind of like the situation with Michigan and Dusty May leaving. Now the big programs will find money to pay these guys. But where are you going to come up with the roster? Rosters are kind of set, aren't they, for stuff in the fall?
Yeah. That's
where are you going to come up with the room?
You're not. I guess these 50 kids are going to have to go out and create their own university. Backyard Barbecue State will have to join the SWAC conference as the 9th member and play there. But, to answer your question where it stops, PJ, technically they're just going to keep suing until the courts grow a pair. It's not going to stop until that happens. And now playing quarterback for the Stanford Cardinal, John Elway, in his 5th year of eligibility.
And, this morning, Henry was saying, well, this doesn't tackle the ills of. This was in direct response to the situation where you had G-Leaguers coming back to play college basketball, claiming they had eligibility, which, is a different problem from the problems of portal and NIL. Those are problems, but those are problems that maybe the solution, I don't know quite how to say it. This is a problem that it was strong enough from members of the NCAA and athletic directors that they would that they would say, okay, we can't have that. We can't have pros coming back to play. We can't have guys that are pros, true pros in Europe, coming in as hired assassins. As proven with the Sorsby case, when the NCAA wants to band together, or when members want to band together and push something through, obviously they can do it.
Yeah.
So we will see. Hopefully, like you say, there will be a jurist out there who will have some cojones.
Number 2.
I think coaches seem to like this 5-5. I don't. But I don't. It's not, to me. It's not this huge objection. I don't have this huge objection over it.
Patrick, I like the old system more, but I like the 5-5 more than I do the current system where guys are playing 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah, sure. Sure. No, you're right. You're right.
Alrighty, number 2, the PGA Tour announced late on Tuesday that they are going to a 2-track system. This means that there will be 2 PGA Tour events every single week. There will be a main tour and a PGA Tour Challengers series that will run simultaneously to the main series. Players can be elevated from the Challenger Tour to the PGA at the end of the season or during the season. One of the examples in doing this is if you win 2 events in the Challengers Tour in any given season, you can be elevated to the PGA.
The overall issue with what has happened in golf is the tour itself wants the stars to play. They want to motivate the stars to play in as many events as possible. That's the reason you've seen purses go up. And, I mean, it's not sustainable where the purses are now. It's just not. Don't let them kid you. It's not sustainable. The Saudis aren't walking through the door. I mean, why do you think LIV is likely going away? Because it's the money they're paying out is not sustainable. Unless you're going to have private equity just invade. And then, you talk about all the charity that the PGA Tour, and I'm sure they do in each one of these tournaments are charitable. But I mean, that's the pearl clutching from the Brandel Chamblees of the world, where we're going to lose our charitable initiatives in these communities. Well, I got news for you. If you're an event in Mississippi or in Iowa in July, and Nance sitting on the commentary because they put the third string guy in to do it, which means it's not a big event if Nance isn't doing it. You're not servicing the charitable initiative anyway, because nobody's showing up. None of the players are showing up that they want to watch. You're not selling tickets. So I don't like the no cut situation. I think maybe you could have 1 or 2 a year to make it interesting, but you can't. It flies in the face of what we love about golf. You have to make the cut.
Yeah.
To play in the weekend. I mean, there is a earn it situation on the tour. So now you've given a chance for some guys, because the best thing about golf, to me at least, are the stories of guys who maybe were the Monday qualifier that ended up playing well.
Yeah.
Or a guy who's been a guy that's been out there grinding that, finally breaks through and gets a victory. Maybe in one of these, as you say, the equivalent of backyard barbecue state, the Backyard Barbecue Open. I mean, something that maybe is not the greatest field, but able to break through, and then they're able to get a little momentum in their career and start to play more and more with the big boys. So I think this is great. Our friend Brian Mull has said this 100 times. This is a great tour when it was established 40 years ago. You'd be better off just blowing all of golf up and starting fresh and make it a true global situation.
Yeah. Oh, you would.
And he's right about that. He's 100% right about that.
Mm-hmm. So,
any thoughts on any of that, Pilk?
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of kind of what the ATP Tour does in tennis, right? So top 300 players in the world are on the tour, and then you have the Challengers Tour, and it's a way for guys to come up. The tough thing, though, Patrick, you mentioned that the purses are struggling. How many people are going to go to these events? Like you said, they're already not going to some of these non-events now. These are going to turn into these Challenger Tour events. But is this going to be self-sustained? Is this going to be a tax write-off for the top event? I want to see more of the model, I guess. I don't feel as I'm educated enough to go on here on the radio publicly and say, oh, I 100% feel this way or that way. Like, let's see the events, kind of see how they plan on doing it, how many guys are going to be on the main tours, Challengers Tour. I think if the Challengers Tour's got decent names, it's fine. But,
if it's where you could see up-and-coming guys.
Yeah.
And it's not guys trying to hold on, because that's the other problem with the tour. You got too many guys that aren't truly competitive, but have made a nice living by just hanging on and making some cuts during the year. And look, them's the rules.
Yep.
3.
Alrighty, number 3. It was reported earlier today by ABC 11 in Raleigh that $13.4 million were brought to Wake County during the Hurricanes' run to the Stanley Cup. $255,000 in income tax, and it says that more than 6,700 hotel rooms were booked in Wake County during the time for various away teams, fans, and members of the media and whatnot coming in and working the events.
So there is now a report from the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, Pilk, that says 192,922 fans.
I did see that exact number, yeah.
In downtown Raleigh on Saturday, making the Canes Championship celebration the largest event in downtown Raleigh's history. The updated data provided a more refined estimate of Saturday's visitation and underscores the magnitude, Here's what they used. Cell phone data. They pinged cell phones, and that's how they came up with that number.
Okay. Well, it was probably 192,921 fans and one DeMarco. Because DeMarco, I think, was kind of drugged there by Kayleen, and not against his will, but...
This is still... this number continue, and I don't want to complain for the sake of complaint and call out our boy, the Big Hen, but, he believes in certain things and certain people, which tells you he believes the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. And he doesn't believe this, and the data keeps coming out that shows that, there was a huge crowd.
Yeah.
Huge.
4.
Alrighty, number 4 last night was night number 1 of the NBA draft. Power forward from BYU, AJ DeBonsa, goes number 1 overall to the Washington Wizards. He was the overall favorite to go to the Wizards. The Hornets got a pair of picks. Hans Steinbach, a power forward from UW via Germany, and then they also took shooting guard Christian Anderson from Texas Tech.
Boozer was picked 3rd out of Duke. Caden Boozer?
Cameron Boozer
was picked 3rd overall. Caden's coming back to atone for throwing the ball away. Cameron Boozer, 3rd overall. And this is what he had to say.
Man, those 5 minutes feel like a really long time, honestly. But, I'm grateful, man. I went to an organization who believes in me. That's what's super important to me. So I'm super excited for what the future has for me.
We'll ask Giglio about this, but there's a real thinking he's going to be Hansborough-like in the pros. The game's not going to translate over.
I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah. Then the Bulls picked next. They picked 4th, and they selected out of Carolina Caleb Wilson, who said this and then tried to walk it back a little bit.
I'm writing my own story, man. Honestly, I want to be better than Mike. Honestly, I know it's a lot to go, but I'm writing my own story for sure. I feel like there's a great pipeline from UNC to the Bulls, and I'm just ready to keep it going.
Do they drug test in the NBA? Because he's on something.
Hey, you should strive to be the best you can be. I get it.
You should want to be like Mike. You're not going to be better than Mike. There's 3, maybe 5 all-timers, and anyway.
About to get Patrick riled up, baby.
3 games, and I was no Jordan fan. 3 games that had eligibility, or 3 guys that had eligibility and opted to remain in the draft. A couple of them in the triangle. Isaiah Evans at Duke. Henry Visser from University North of Carrboro, and then Malik Thomas of Arkansas.
Yep.
Does one of those 3, or Visser or the other, who goes tonight?
Well, Slim's definitely going tonight.
Visser. Okay. Slim's going. All right.
I think all 3 are getting picked, but.
What number are we on? Like 20?
5.
What number? Okay.
5.
The NFL 100 has released their first 10 players, so 91 through 100. This is voted on by the other players, and Panthers quarterback Bryce Young coming in at 98.
You're the Panthers fan. How do you feel about this? Because I have a little more belief, but not a lot more belief.
It shows what his peers think about him, at least. And, when you grow respect from guys around the league, obviously they know a little more football than we do. I'm still not sold on the Bryce situation. Everybody knows that. I've been open about that. But, sometimes, though, when it comes to these rankings, now the top is the best. When it comes to, hey, whether you sneak into number 100 or you don't, could come down to your character and your leadership abilities. And those are important, too. And those things you cannot question from a guy like Bryce Young. He's a Class A human being. Is he ready to be a starting quarterback that's going to take you to the Super Bowl? We'll talk about that later.
So there are over 2,200 players in the NFL. And he's in the top 100, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And this was voted on by the peers. This wasn't somebody's
no
podcast.
media. No media,
Okay.
no fans. We know how bad the fans vote. Just look at the MLB All-Star voting. How did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
You did. All right, that'll do it for today's Top 5 at 5. When we come back, Joe Giglio is going to be with us from the OG podcast. There he is. Catch up with him. Looking good, looking handsome. Many things to discuss. We'll be back. More of the Patrick Johnson Show straight ahead.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Two real burgers, better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Alan, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Listen up. He is talking now. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Before we get Joe Giglio's thoughts on 5 years in to play five and other items from the world of sports, let's hear from his son, who was on Hoist the Colors radio earlier today talking about it.
Thinking out of it from more perspective that this is going to be, especially in football, a negative for high school recruits, just because there are going to be fewer opportunities. Because I think college teams, even you see it today, are now going to be, instead of taking the 18-year-old high school quarterback to bring him and develop, why would they spend that money when they can go get the 23-year-old proven veteran quarterback in college football, and he has 2 years of eligibility left? So I think you'll see that side of things compared with the redshirt thing, along with the redshirt thing, that this is going to negatively affect high school students, I think, the most out of those three sports.
There you go. Listen to good boy, that boy James Giglio. Are you got to be proud of him, Joe? You got to be proud of that lad of yours, both of them, but James especially.
Unmute yourself, Joe.
Uh-oh.
Still muted from the
Unmute
break.
yourself, Joe.
Yes, and I agree, Patrick. I agree with him. It's obviously an effort by the NCAA to put an age limit on their athletes, which of course they can't just do otherwise because that would require making the athletes employees and collective bargaining and all those other things. So this is really just an end around. And yeah, of course, the high school recruits have been being pushed aside for a few years now because of the extra year of eligibility that COVID created. We're finally out of that, and then the NCAA decides, let's just give everybody 5 years. So I don't get it. I don't like it, but here we are.
Is it better, though, than the current system where guys are playing 6, 7, 8, in some cases 9 years?
Yeah, the current system is ridiculous. I mean, no one should ever be in college for 6 years of eligibility anyway. You could be in college for 6 years and come out with a start on your law degree or something in the medical profession at ECU where you become a doctor or a nurse. Like, yeah, that's
I was going to say, thing. if you're in school for 9 years, you're usually called doctor.
Yeah. Look, college sports is so ridiculous. This is a last gasp by them. And grasping at straws at that to try to put an age limit in because they lose every single lawsuit that's filed against them. And they've already been 15, I saw, filed by the class of 22, I think it said, on the first day of this challenging their eligibility. So look, and college sports needs to fix themselves. They don't have the leadership strong enough to fix themselves. Quite frankly, the presidents of the universities don't have the intelligence, which is a strange thing to say. They could probably solve economic problems and some other real world like housing issue problems with what they deal with on campus, but they're not smart enough to solve their athletic problems on their own campuses because quite frankly, it doesn't serve their financial needs.
Joe Giglio of the OG Podcast is joining us here before our little summer break in a couple of weeks on the PJ Show. We appreciate Joe being with us very much. How confident are you over the Protect College Sports Act getting through? It's created some bizarre bedfellows in Washington.
Yeah, you would think with a majority, the Republican lean would be able to get the legislation that it would want. We already saw once, though, where this did not fly because, again, P-Man, it's like logic. A lot of this stuff, it just defies logic. And there's an NCAA world and then there's a legal world, or the real world if you want, where actual laws and rules apply. There have been no rules in the NCAA except their own, about cream cheese and texting too many times. I had a coach that I was talking to last week who said to me, "Can you imagine we used to punish people for texting people too much or calling people too much?" Poor Lumberton's own Kelvin Sampson getting in trouble at Indiana for texting too much. Like, can you imagine the silliness of all the old NCAA rules, to protect their financial interests? It all seems very quaint and foolish now. And I hope something can be put in place. 2030 is the doomsday that I see the real reckoning for college sports. Because, let's talk a little bit about ECU football. We don't have to do it on granular level, but just think about it big picture. ECU had a really good football team last year. And what is the reward for having a really good football team last year? Whatever the number is, 18 of their 22 starters or something ridiculous like that are now playing somewhere else. And I'm not blaming those players for going and getting money, but it's what is ECU supposed to do? What is even NC State in an alleged power conference supposed to do to hang on to a player like Hollywood Smothers? It's gotten to a point where it never was equitable, but now it's even more inequitable. And it's frustrating to me because again, it goes back to the lack of leadership, not only on the NCAA level, but the presidential level at these schools. And we have so many good schools in this state. You would have thought that some of the leaders in these schools would have had some foresight to head some of this stuff off of the pass. But unfortunately, former NC State Chancellor Randy Woodson was part of the NCAA's Board of Governors and voted to approve Mark Emmert for a contract extension, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago now. And so, we had some people in position to actually force change, and they were too busy looking out for themselves and making decisions that were totally and completely myopic.
I'm looking here. I saw this earlier today. I'm guessing this is not some AI-generated craziness. Do we believe Luke Fletcher? He's verified. Do you know him, Giglio? You know who I'm speaking of here? Okay.
I don't.
He has tweeted out fiscal year 25, the ACC team distributions are in, and the gap between the top and the bottom of the league is eye-opening. And he tagged Taylor Tannenbaum. He tagged David Teal. He tagged you and Joe Ovius and somebody who apparently doesn't have an active account. This claims the fiscal year 25 payout. So this would have been for last season, maybe? Not this fiscal year, not this academic year, but for last year?
Yeah, the 24-25.
He's saying that Clemson got $55 million in, I guess, basketball distributions? Or is this overall distribution?
No, this will be overall. Remember, they went to a success initiative. So, listen, there's some faults with that list, of course. This is just general tax information, so you should be able to clean it up a little bit. The list
Syracuse is 2, though, according to this. Syracuse is 2?
Yep. So you'll see Clemson and SMU both made the college football playoff the first year of the expanded field, so that accounts for some of that. Clemson obviously won the ACC in football, so that accounts for some of that. Clemson also made the NCAA tournament, so that accounts for some of that. Syracuse went 10-3 in football, and remember, the ACC has moved to a viewership model where you are rewarded for eyeballs, and they played a top 10, I think it was number 6 Miami that year on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which is obviously a big Saturday. And it was an upset by them, a big upset by them, kept Miami out of the playoff, out of the ACC championship game. So they got a lot of eyeballs from that game. And then, believe it or not, they played Washington State in the Holiday Bowl that year, and they had nearly 3 million viewers for that game. So, look, the ACC is trying to put its schools in a position to incentivize them to have success on the field, or in the case of Florida State, on TV. Don't get me started on their Labor Day spot that they get, and it's the only reason they have any viewers, but they claim they're this great television attraction. P-Man, anybody can play Notre Dame on Labor Day Monday and get a bazillion viewers. Anybody. So that's just kind of silly for them to think otherwise. But the part of the problem with his tweet is he says, the disparity. Well, yeah, dude. I mean, SMU, the only money they got was from their football initiative for making the playoff. They don't get any money from the media deal. And Stanford and Cal get a discounted rate. I think it's a third of what the other schools get from media-wise. It is kind of interesting to kind of see where State, Pitt, Georgia Tech. It was interesting that Wake Forest seems to be whatever the bottom number is for the full-time members. That's interesting to me. But if you think about it, basketball, football-wise, that year they did not have, excellent or extraordinary teams, so they wouldn't have a reason to really pop a number. So it kind of gives you an idea of the baseline. And then Miami will be the one for the next fiscal year that gives you a true idea of how an ACC team could potentially close the gap financially with the SEC. Never mind the Big Ten. They're not catching the Big Ten.
If you were able to, forget college sports, it's too big, but if you were able to sort of do a handful of things, or maybe it's less than that, to get the ACC where it's not in that alleged power, but where it is really a power can compete with the big boys conference, what items would you do? What would you institute to make that a reality?
I think Jim Phillips was put in a difficult position, A, coming in off a pandemic, B, coming into a situation where their television contract was locked up for 15 years, which at the time was thought of as a positive, right? But obviously, as you see with the Big Ten being able to renegotiate every 5 years, there's an advantage to that. So I think he's been somewhat hamstrung. I do think this incentivized initiatives are the way that the SEC will ultimately go to. And maybe even the Big Ten, the SEC, you could actually look at it and go, hey, even Vanderbilt, love you, mean it, but like you need to do more. Mississippi State, Missouri, a lot of these schools, what do they actually do? I don't really know, to be perfectly honest with you. And same with the Big Ten. The Big Ten is a feature that they have 18 teams and only like 4 of them on any given football season are actually good. The other 14 being where they are is actually good for the Big Ten and sets them up to have multiple teams in the playoff the way that they have the last few years. So for me, the ACC's biggest problem all along were the teams that they added in all of the different steps of expansion, going all the way back to 2004 and 2005. Nothing wrong with Virginia Tech, but where's West Virginia? That first run, with Miami should have been in the league long before that with Florida State. Mm-hmm. There's an argument to be made that Penn State should have been in the league long before that. Again, gets back to a little bit to your lack of foresight. They did make a smart move with Notre Dame. It's a smart deal that they have with Notre Dame, even though pretty much every school hates it. Notre Dame still adds value to their television deal, so it does help them. But obviously, Notre Dame has just wiggled their way into a scenario where they make the playoff every year and don't need a conference affiliation until somebody puts the screws to them, which at this point would require some sort of writing in the playoff structure that says you have to play 10 games against teams in the super conferences, if you will.
Right.
Which is where I kind of think this thing is going anyway. And I hope they go back to regionalized competition for their non-revenue sports. I'm hoping that happens sooner rather than later.
Would you put basketball in regional play? Would you just make this a football only thing?
I think the super conference would be football, men's basketball, women's basketball for television purposes. I think everything else would be a regional play. I don't mind the basketball, but you got to keep in mind, my thought process is when you go to this Super League, some of these schools like Boston College, honestly, I don't know what they're doing. They're not, at this point, I think they would be happier playing a non-conference schedule against Georgetown and Connecticut and do what Connecticut did and go back to Big East basketball. I'm not like making fun of them. It's not their priority, right? So if it's not your priority, I don't know what you're trying to hang on to. So I think there's a lot of schools like that I think will get lost in the wash once this idea of, okay, how do we quote unquote fix college sports? Well, someone's going to break away. And well, how do you break away? Well, you have to overwhelm people with a financial opportunity, but it also is incumbent upon those schools who break away to have the financial ability to compete. And right now, if there's 65 alleged major conference teams, like how many do you think actually have the financial wherewithal to compete? 20 at most?
Yeah, I was going to say a third, maybe a third.
Yeah.
In reality, a third. And that's it. Yeah. That is it. Hey, Joe Giglio with us here with the OG podcast. The Brendan Sorsby thing obviously has played out well before since we had you on. I'm surprised all the gloom and doom I was hearing from, pretty smart guys on certain national platforms. And then almost like over a weekend, this thing turned. And then so from your perspective, what caused that to turn? Was there any teeth to this Big 12 we're not going to play, or other schools we're not going to play Texas Tech? Because it would seem like that Texas Tech would have the pockets to fight that, and then TV would get involved. So, what happened there?
Without knowing the wording of their, grant of rights and their conference bylaws, the way I understand it, conferences are allowed. You signed a grant of rights to compete in a conference. That's how I understand it. Then that is basically giving that conference permission to make the rules. And if one of the rules is you can't gamble or have a felony or something along those lines, like, again, logical stuff, then the conference essentially becomes the governing body. And, there's a lot of schools that would disagree with that. but that's also why you sign the grant of rights for the financial protection. Could Texas Tech break off and be an independent, like a Notre Dame, like a BYU? Could they do, well, BYU's, I guess, in the league now with them, but could they do something like that? Again, you run up into the Notre Dame conundrum of, at some point, you run out of friends who actually want to play you. I just think the audacity of it was, that's why so many people were taken aback by it. It's like, okay, like, what is the point of having rules if you're just going to let somebody break a rule? And then, when I had first heard about it, here's a shot at my friends at UNC. I thought they went full UNC and said, well, everyone can gamble. All regular students can gamble, so he can gamble too. That's what I thought they were doing. That they played the mental health card. And maybe they should have, right? That they played the mental health card. I was kind of like, ooh, boy, that's a slippery slope that you're going down. And of course they were flipping it on the schools and the conferences and the NCAA for all of their well-intended initiatives to look out after these athletes and their mental well-being. Of course, these are the same schools, conferences, governing body that forced them to play during a pandemic when it probably wasn't in their best interest, but it was in the school, conference, NCAA's best interest for them to compete. So the hypocrisy flows from every angle. But the universal reaction to Sorsby being ruled eligible just kind of reeked of enough's enough, right? Like at what point are you just allowed to make your own rules? And it just seems ridiculous that these schools don't see the writing on the wall, and that the number one way to write your own rules, and sound like a broken record, is to make them employees and collectively bargain with them.
Joe Giglio from the OG Podcast joining us here today on the Patrick Johnson Show. Great to have him on. Let's turn our attention away from the cluster that college athletics is, and let's talk about our Carolina Hurricanes. Because as you know, and I told Maniscalco this, for a while we didn't have him on the show. I blame Pilkington.
Okay.
And so,
when in doubt,
when in doubt, blame your producer. You've learned that in this broadcasting business. That's what you do. You blame the producer. And so we got him on because I've known him like I've known you for years. And all of a sudden, they go on a great run and win the whole damn thing. So my thing with Maniscalco was you needed the Patrick Johnson Show to kind of push him over the top. And so he would make regular appearances during the run. So I would like to take a little bit of credit for this because it seems like everybody else is. Do you agree with that assessment, number one?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't the Patrick Johnson Show mojo come in handy for the Hurricanes?
Yeah, precisely. All right. We had Maniscalco on yesterday, who I love, by the way. He's like you, just a priceless human being. A great guy as you are. You guys have a lot in common. All right, so but what an amazing thing for sport, not only in Raleigh, but I think for the state. This has really been insanely remarkable.
Yeah, anytime the Hurricanes win and go on a run like this, you get to see what it would be like if this area only had one college or only had one pro team, right? And where I grew up in New Jersey, there was always Giants, Jets, Mets, Yankees, and you never really got this idea of solidarity. There's a lot of schools, though, a lot of states and schools that you go to, and you're like, well, this is the only show in town. And you're like, of course, everyone's a Kansas fan. Well, what's your alternative? Of course, everyone's an Ohio State fan. What are you going to root for, Ohio or Miami of Ohio or Kent? Come on. So I always kind of laugh when it was college coverage. People are like, well, you went to NC State, you root for NC State, and it's like, it's not really that simple. But when it's the Hurricanes, it's like, yeah, man, they're good for everybody. They're good for business. They're good for everybody. State, Carolina, Duke, ECU, App State. They bring everybody together, and it's so rare. The idea of debating in this state, and as someone who's now lived here longer than I did in New Jersey, is part of the fabric of this state. Sports debate and my color, my school being better than yours, it is really part of the foundation of this state and what makes it great. So when you have that one team that can unify, you see how the area comes together and really celebrates them. And all the more better made by Rod Brendamore and his personality, and the Hurricanes kind of being this underdog, not being this fancy big market team with superstars, rather being one that works really hard and is faster, stronger, a little bit better than their opponents, but not glitzier. So all the more for everyone to wrap their arms around.
Do you? And even people from Charlotte are getting in on the act, so that was kind of exciting.
Bit. Yeah, Joe Ovius likes to say Charlotte's the family member who refuses to drive to your house for the holidays, but there were some Charlotte fans who came up for this one and enjoyed it, and I think it takes something of that level, right? It takes the Stanley Cup to kind of get the speaking of rivalries, Raleigh, Charlotte, that they turn their nose up at us, so that's fine. But sometimes when you have the superior professional team accounting for all of these playoff wins, when the Hornets and Panthers continue to struggle on such fronts, so no, it's good for the whole. It's good for the whole state, and what an unbelievable run, and just different generations as well. I really, our, not to pick on you, but your radio audience is 50 plus, 55 plus. Our podcast audience is 28, 29, 30, 31. And so a lot of those guys were like, I was 5 years old when the Hurricanes, I was 10 years old when the Hurricanes.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's so a full kind of circle moment for that generation who barely remembered or, had great memories of going to games with their dad and their mom and brothers and sisters. And now with their own families being able to go through that. I mean, that was really kind of cool to hear all the phone calls on the OG Sports phone that were of that ilk.
Over the next, and I know we got to go here. Appreciate your time. Over the next few weeks till we get to media days, what's the big sports story? I guess that's kind of in our space. I know the World Cup's going on. There'll be some other things that'll happen that are, global or national in scope. But I mean, from just, the college space or our local space, what might be worth keeping an eye on?
I hate to be that guy, but I do think it is the World Cup. I think soccer, the World Cup is the premier sporting event in the world. And as someone who did not grow up rooting for soccer or caring about soccer, it's difficult for me to say that. But the passion, you multiply the Hurricanes in one state by, tenfold when it comes to a country, and to see the way that soccer has changed. And they've expanded their field, much like the NCAA tournament, except they got it right. They're including more of the smaller conferences, if you will. So I like how they did that. But I mean, the World Cup is truly amazing to watch and to follow, and a lot of fun to gamble on in these early rounds as well.
Spoken like Joe Giglio, and only Joe Giglio can. Have a great summer. We'll talk to you, I'm sure, sometime very, very soon.
Thanks, B-Man. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, back to wrap up today's festivities on the other side.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Alan, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
Need cash for a vacation? National Finance Company is here to help. For over 50 years, National Finance Company has been the small loan specialist with loans from $1,000 to $5,000 with low payments to meet your budget. We're in the business of getting you the cash you need today. Apply online for a loan at one of our convenient branch offices and get your money as fast as today. It's easy. Get the vacation cash you need. For extra cash, visit nfcmoney.com.
And now, the stunning conclusion. Why is everyone screaming? On 94.3 The Game.
All right, great to have Joe Giglio on. And I'm excited about tomorrow's show. We're going to have Cornell Powell, as we'll be live in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow. He's got a big football camp that he does each year. That'll be coming up. And then we are working out the timing on this gentleman, Billy Trott, who's written the book about Pete Maravich that's just out. He played high school basketball, was his backcourt mate, and then there's some other aspects of it, the health issue for Maravich and, some of Pete's idiosyncrasies and how clinically they may be diagnosed today. And it's kind of a fascinating book. So we're gonna have him on hopefully Friday. It's gonna work out. We're gonna get that done for the show then. I love Giglio. I really love having Joe on. I'm impressed with his son James Pilk. I think some of this palace intrigue and stuff with like Sorsby and the 5 and 5, that to me, again, for our space, seems to be the more kind of interesting thing. But I guess it's World Cup. Sure. So you're happy about that.
I'm happy because we all get a chance to pull for America together, baby. Any chance to wear the red, white, and blue.
There you go. There you go. And even I think some foreigners are now pulling for America. All right, Cornell Powell tomorrow. Thanks to Joe Giglio. Have a fantastic rest of your evening and enjoy this lovely weather we're experiencing today because it's going to get hot again.